We're looking at Agapanthus care today on Pots and Trowels, and that's brought to you with the support of Cobra Garden and Darlac. Hello and welcome to Pots and Trowels. Well, I'm in the greenhouse today and we're going to be talking about Agapanthus care through the winter. But before that, just very quickly, a few people have asked me about how to keep plants frost-free in the greenhouse this year, especially with the cost of heating being so high. And I'm certainly not going to be heating this greenhouse. It's quite a big, voluminous greenhouse and it would cost me a fortune to heat it. So we did a video a few weeks ago about bringing tender plants under cover. And if you want to see that, you can find that, of course, on YouTube. And if you subscribe on YouTube and you click the little bell icon, then you'll get reminders of all the new videos that we do. So pretty much in here, these are plants that need a little bit of winter protection. They're borderline hardy, some of them. So what I have done, although there's going to be no heating as such, I've got a soil warming cable in this here. So this is a wooden box with a soil warming cable covered over with sand, and this gets quite warm under this lid, and I can keep this at about 10 degrees centigrade. So young plants, I'm bringing on some cuttings that just need that little bit of protection. They're going to be fine in here, even though there's no heating around them. You'll notice I have got a heater on the wall. I'm not using it. I'm using it on fan mode only. So what I will do at night time is I will switch the fan on, which uses very little electricity, and it just keeps the air moving a little bit round, and that helps to keep a little bit of frost off. And certainly today I would probably put it on for an hour or two just to dry out the condensation, because what you need to try and create is a really dry atmosphere. The drier the atmosphere, the less frost damage you're likely to get. Down here, last night in here, it got down to about half a degree below freezing, but nothing has been damaged because the atmosphere is dry. The other thing I do is have lots of fleece on standby. So where I've got bigger plants around or all along here, I can drape some fleece over the plants, tuck them up at bedtime in a couple of layers, even over the propagator, just as another insulation layer. And then for my pelargoniums, my stock plants, which are in here, which have all been cut down and are just starting to sprout, again, these will stand it fairly cool if they're dry. So I've allowed the compost to almost dry out, and I've put them in a cold frame. I've just bought the cold frame in from outside, put it up on the bench, and again at night time when there's a frost forecast, I can drop the lid and then I can cover that over with more fleece or an old blanket or newspaper, cardboard to give it that insulated layer. So by keeping the compost on the dry side, using fleece and getting good air circulation, even if it's 2 or 3 degrees below freezing outside, you can probably keep it just to about freezing in here and your plants should, fingers crossed, be okay. So back to the Agapanthus. The Agapanthus have been brought in. These are Agapanthus that I grow in containers, and I've got several that we have outside and they look amazing through the summer. There are basically two types of Agapanthus. There are what we call the deciduous ones, just like a herbaceous perennial. It will die back in the winter, and this is one. This is normally a lovely variegated leaf. It's just got a couple of leaves left on there. Lovely variegated leaf, and then tall spires of blue flowers on there. Looked amazing all through the summer. So this one is deciduous. These die back in the winter to the root, and then in the spring they grow again. This one here is also deciduous. This is a different variety. This is just a green leaf one with blue flowers. It will die back, it's just a bit later doing it. So this will get the same treatment in a week or two's time. The other type of Agapanthus are the evergreens. These often have a thicker leaf. They flower in exactly the same way, big tall spires. They've all been chopped off, but these retain their foliage through the winter, but some of the leaves do go yellow. Out of the two, the deciduous ones that die back are the slightly hardiest. These will take a temperature down to probably minus 10 degrees centigrade. And often these are planted in borders in the garden and they're fine. So what we would do with these at this time of the year, I've obviously brought these inside in a container. They're a little bit more prone to frost getting in through the sides. So I brought them in, and what I do is just give them a tidy up. So these are the deciduous ones. So I want to get rid of all the old flower stalks and all the old foliage, because this is damp I only bought these in fairly recently, so they've been rained on. I want to dry them out a little bit. So I'm getting rid of all this gooey, soggy foliage. That can all go onto the compost heap. So just use your secateurs or a pair of scissors or a knife to get rid of all this. It rots down really quickly. And pull it off. You don't have to get every last little bit, but we just want to basically get it back down so we can see some of the compost in the pot like that. And then what I'm going to do with this one is, and this is something you can do if you've got them growing in the garden, although they'll stand the frost down to -10, if the buds which are just below the surface, literally just down there, and I can't see them, but the flower buds for next year and the growth buds will only be about an inch or so down. If they get frosted heavily, then although it won't kill the plant, what it will do is probably damage the flowers for next year. So what you can do in containers and growing them in the garden is to make sure that once you've got rid of all this horrible foliage and you keep finding bits, get a bit of compost. You're not too wet. This is just some compost, and just top dress them with an inch or two of compost like that. And that works really well, because what happens is anyway, in pots, the compost settles over the summer. So we're just topping that back up, but it also acts like a little insulation blanket there, just to give them that little bit more protection. So with the deciduous ones, it's cut them down, top dress them with a bit of compost, and then don't water them. These won't be watered now until I see signs of growth in the spring. There's quite a bit of moisture in there that will gradually dry out over the winter, and then when we see those first signs in spring, we can start to water it and feed it. With the evergreen ones, obviously we can't cut these completely down to ground level. So what we want to do is to make sure they've got good airflow through them. So what I'm doing is just pulling off all these leaves that are going yellow. Once they've gone yellow like this, they never go green again. So I'm just getting rid of all the rubbish around it. And any old flower stalks that have been partly cut off, take them right down like this one here. You can cut those off. So it's a tidy up session with these, and be quite thorough. And you might find with these, you'll do this, but then in a month's time, a few more of the leaves will have started to yellow as well. So just keep on top of it, picking them over on a regular basis. This one here, as you can see, it's really, really pot bound. They like to be pot bound to a certain extent, but this is probably just a little bit too much. So what we'll do with this one is in about March time, when the weather's warming up, we'll knock this out the pot. We'll do it as a pots and trowels. We'll knock it out the pot, and I'll show you how easy it is to divide them. And from this clump here, I reckon we'll get probably at least half a dozen new plants. One can go back in this pot, and then the others we can pot up, and we'll have even more. Great to give to friends, and just to spread them around a little bit. So I could spend another couple of minutes on that, but you get the general idea. It's just a really good tidy up. There's probably one directly in view that you can see that you're saying he's missed one. So it's tidy up with that. Again, cut back on the watering completely. These will stand very dry conditions through their dormant period. In the greenhouse, it's getting a bit of protection. On a day like today, when the sun's out, the degrees will go up by a few, so that'll be fine. And if the frost is forecast and it's going to be, -1, 2 outside, again, what I will do is grab my fleece, and then I would just wrap that in a fleece blanket and just wrap your Agapanthus. And if you've got 2 or 3 layers, that's fine. If you've got a big old cardboard box, just put that over the top of it, just to protect the foliage, but also the roots. And then it should get through the winter. And then, as I said, when we get those first signs of growth in March, we can start to water this one as well. And this is the one that I will be dividing. So hopefully with a few tips like that, you can keep not only your Agapanthus, but lots of other borderline hardy plants safe through the winter months. Well, thank you for watching Pots and Trowels. Next week, it'll be starting to feel a little bit like Christmas. So we're going to get some lovely evergreen foliage to show you how you can use it in and around the home. So we'll see you then. Bye.